All right. So what are we seeing this week? I'm seeing that rates are holding steady for now with apartments. That said, a lot of lenders are being very selective these days. They want people who are more experienced. They're definitely looking at global cash flow, meaning your cash flow outside of just the property. That said, it's not that we can't help you. You should always call us to see and ask about your scenario, make sure that you can qualify. But I will say a lot of lenders have began to tighten up. We definitely seem to trail behind residential. So residential, we're still seeing a huge lack of inventory, but a lot more people are getting pre-qualified. Rates have dipped a little bit. So it's really gotten like the market moving again. Multifamily has trailed behind because we had a pretty good 2022. Towards the end, things kind of started to slow down. I'm seeing more activity of people trying to make things happen. I'm running, numbers and telling people what I can do, but I think they're also now trying to figure out if these deals make sense for them to buy, if they can get it at the right price. So I'm not seeing a ton of movement, but people are trying to continue to do business. They are trying to buy. Banks, on the other hand, why are they not lending? A lot of people ask this question, why aren't banks lending? And I talked about it last week a little bit. Part of it is that they are having what they call a liquidity crisis. A lot of people are taking their money out of the banks for different reasons. The other thing is banks can actually park their cash with the government. So for example, if you want to go park your cash, if you want to go buy bonds, for example, I just looked, the rate today is 6.89%. So you can get paid 6.89% on your money, which is pretty freaking good. So the banks can do the exact same thing. So why would they go then lend on real estate when it's risky, right? We don't really know if prices are going to go down. We don't know how the economy is going to do. You're not sure if people are going to be able to make their payments. So instead, they can just go park their money in a very safely with the government, make a great return on it. And now they're just kind of sitting and waiting. So if they want, it's kind of like, okay, if you want me to give you a loan, it better be really conservative. And this is the rate I'm willing to give you, take it or leave it. So it's interesting because I get a lot of people calling. I'm a ton of requests for construction right now. And people are like, gosh, that rate is so high. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if the bank's going to lend it to you right now in this kind of uncertain environment, they're going to want a premium on that because they could literally go park their cash and make almost 7% on it right now. So that is what we're seeing. So it's kind of a combination of a lack of liquidity or a loss of liquidity. Their loan to savings ratios are very skewed, not in a good way. Plus, they can go make more money on their money, or they can make a great return on their money right now and just parking it with the government. So the government is incentivizing them to keep their money on the sidelines. Why? Because we need to slow the economy down. So we are just kind of in this holding pattern. Now, what is getting done? Conservative deals are getting done. We are still getting apartment deals done. People are pulling cash out so that they can refi in the future, or they can have money to buy opportunities in the future. So that is happening. My advice would be is if you're buying a deal right now, be prepared to perhaps have to put a little bit more money down than you're planning on. And the other thing is to try to be very flexible or try to think ahead and say, okay, well, I might want to refinance this deal if rates come down in the next year or two. What does that mean? Well, maybe you look at, loans that have lower prepays. It's not always about getting the best interest rate, even though it feels like you're paying this really high interest rate right now. What you want in a market like this is flexibility to refinance, flexibility to sell. You just want to be able to move your real estate in any direction that you need to when the time comes up. So that is the biggest focus for me. I see a lot of people that panic and they just think they want a 10-year fix because the sky is falling and, rates are just out of control, and they're never going to come back down. I mean, this is the lowest rates we've had in, 100 years. I've heard all the stories. But that being said, we've been through these cycles before. This is not the first time we've been through a real estate cycle. And I will tell you that the majority of people who locked in on a 10-year fixed, of course, a lot of it was agency debt because that's who was lending at the time. And even in the last cycle, they all got yield maintenance prepays. They just thought that they were never going to need to refinance. And then they all regretted it. So this cycle, maybe think about that what if the sky doesn't fall? What if rates don't go crazy? Are you okay with this rate that you have? Or do you want to err on the side of caution? in my opinion, it just depends on what cycle you are in your life. So what season of your life that you're in. So for example, for me, I'm in a growing season. So I'm not going to lock up my properties for 10 years because I'm scared that rates are going to go, to 10% or 12% or whatever people think. For me, I'm going to say I need flexibility. So worst case scenario, if all hell breaks loose, I could sell the property. I have that flexibility. Or when rates go down, which I think they will, we can't say if they're going to go back down to 3%, but I do think that rates are going to go down, that I can be able to take advantage of a refinance at that time without paying a huge prepay. So that is the season of life I'm in. Maybe if you're a little bit older, you're in retirement mode, you're going to hold on to these properties for the long term, you're not planning on being super active, then I would say I recommend going on a 10-year fixed. So anyways, it just depends on the season of life you're in. This is why a lot of lenders aren't being as aggressive in lending right now. I think we're going to see a lot of shifting with banks. I think we're going to see some banks close, some, well-known names, some names that we know that maybe aren't around anymore. We're going to see some new lenders come into play here that are going to get more aggressive, that have cash to lend, that want to lend. So this is a time for a lot of shifting and movement where some people are going to come up and be very successful, and other people are maybe going to dwindle away. So that's what I'm seeing in the lending market right now. There's a ton of shifting, a lot of people pulling back, some people coming in to the market. And so there's just a lot of different options. They're changing on a weekly basis. So if you do have a scenario, if you're not sure what you can qualify for, you're not sure where rates are at because they're changing all the time, email me, call me. I can run through the scenarios, put together financing quotes, all that good stuff so you know kind of what you can get. And if you have a project, we're doing a lot of this now. If people are adding ADUs to their properties, make sure that you can qualify for the takeout at the end. Make sure if your goal is to maybe recoup your investment to build the ADUs, that you can do that. We'll look at best case and worst case scenarios so that you can know what to expect once you're done building, and that you can get the cash out that you're planning on getting. Because that is a big misconception. I think a lot of people are going from, hey, I bought this fourplex and now I can add 2 to 4 ADUs on it. And then, I'll just refinance. Well, make sure that it qualifies, because it's much different than a 4-unit is much different than, getting financing for a 6 or an 8-unit building. So anyways, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week.